We are in a profound time of transition and transformation. This year, in 2019, we are continuing to experience a number of transits that are really calling us individually and collectively into a time of change, into new paradigms, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. I've talked in a recent video about the Jupiter square with Neptune, really guiding us to dissolve old beliefs, let go of illusions, let go of ways of thinking and seeing reality that constrict us or are actually destructive for us. At the same time, this year, we're in the incredibly powerful conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. They don't go into exact conjunction until January of 2020 at 22 degrees of Capricorn. But starting in February and going through March of 2020, they are in orb. They are within about 5 degrees of each other. So we are in that conjunction starting next month and going for a full year. During that time frame, from March 2019 until September 2019, Saturn and Pluto are also conjunct the South Lunar Node in Capricorn. What does this mean? How is this calling us into another layer of transformation? Saturn and Pluto are an incredibly powerful combination. They come into conjunction approximately every 33 years. It depends on where Pluto is in its elliptical orbit, the exact time frame of that. But when Saturn is conjunct Pluto or they're in opposition, those tend to be dramatic, critical times of change historically. When they were in their opposition 17 years ago, we experienced the crisis of 9/11 and the destruction of the World Trade Center. And we saw how that propelled us in the United States, but also internationally, into a huge time of change. So Saturn with Pluto can be a time of transformation that is either destructive in nature or potentially creative in nature. The deeper intent of this conjunction, think about the meaning of the planets. Saturn, how we structure our lives individually and collectively. And in Capricorn, Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, is really relating to the systems and structures of our society and of our world. So it's really speaking to our economic systems, our political systems, our religious institutions, the structures around which we create our lives. Pluto is the planet of profound transformation, death, rebirth. So you bring Pluto into connection with Saturn, and it's at its most basic level, the transformation of the systems and structures of our lives, individually and collectively. The intention of this transit, remember, if we work with transits consciously, we access their deeper meaning and move into the changes that they're calling us into. It is usually when we resist their energies and the growth and evolution they're guiding us into that we experience them in a more chaotic or cataclysmic way. So Pluto coming into contact with Saturn is saying, look at the structure of your life. And in particular, we need It's a call to look at our collective systems and structures and rules and political systems and economic systems. And Pluto is saying what no longer serves our collective consciousness needs to die, and new forms can then arise. So Pluto with Saturn is actually about the destruction of old forms in order to create the space for new forms to emerge. In moving into connection together with the South Lunar Node, it's a karmic moment. It's really calling us collectively into this time to wake up and to really be aware of the ways in which we're structuring our lives and living our lives, and to see what is dysfunctional, to see what is destructive. All of us who are conscious realize that on this planet right now, our trajectory as a human species is towards destruction. If we don't wake up and realize not only how we're destroying our environment and really devastating our home planet, the Earth, but that we're also destroying each other through our divisiveness, through polarization, through violence, through greed, through that effort to have power over each other. We're actually destroying each other. So Pluto with Saturn is saying, wake up and stop the destruction. This is a karmic moment to wake up and let go of those old paradigms. Pluto is not only calling that energy of transformation into play with Saturn, our systems and structures, but Pluto is the planet that is about power. It's the higher octave of Mars. Mars is how we act, how we express our energy, how we assert ourselves in the world. Pluto, being the higher octave of Mars, is calling us into that capacity to be transformed, to let go of our ego and individual way of feeling like we're in control and we're in charge, and calling us into aligning our will with divine will, with the will and intelligence and power of the cosmos. What does this mean for us? Most likely, as we move into this conjunction, we're going to see increasing instability in the world, increasing tumult, chaos. There is likely to be major shifts and changes in political systems around the world, in our economic systems. We're seeing the breakdown in religious institutions and structures. We're seeing it on many levels. As we move into this time of instability, it's really important to not get caught in fear and not get mired in the storminess or the chaos, but to know that it's actually a death leading to a rebirth. It's a breakdown in old structures in order to clear the way for new forms to be birthed. And those new forms, what are they meant to look like? We get a clue from the fact that Saturn, moving into conjunction with Pluto on the South Node in Capricorn, are opposite the North Node in Cancer. The North Node is telling us what is the growing edge, what is the path we're meant to be on to move into this next step, this next phase in our evolutionary development. Remember, Pluto also is about our soul's evolution and growth. And in this configuration, I think it's about our collective soul And how are we evolving in our human consciousness? And this transit is saying, follow the path of integrating more of that energy of the sign of Cancer. The sign of Cancer relates to the archetype of the Great Mother, the Great Goddess. It is about our capacity to be nurturing and loving to ourselves and to each other. It is about our capacity to live from that place of compassion and to let our actions and our systems be shaped by that wisdom of the sacred feminine, which is about being in right relationship with each other. And it is about that understanding that the sacred is in all of life. If we really believe that and integrate that, then we realize that we need to treat everything around us with reverence. The trees, the rocks, the oil beneath the earth, the sky, each other, the plants and animals that cohabit this world with us. We are meant to treat each other and all of life with reverence, with gratitude, realizing that everything is sacred. So this transit is saying, let go of the old paradigms. They're leading us into destruction. Move into new paradigms that are more nurturing and are integrating more of that energy of the sacred feminine. We've been in this patriarchal period for about 5,000 years. And it's important to remember that we humans have been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. And it's only been in the last 5,000 years that we've been in this paradigm of patriarchy. It's an anomaly. It is not our natural way of being, and it is not the pinnacle of human development. We are not on a linear path. We humans evolve individually and collectively in a spiraling process of evolution. So this transit is saying, remember the energies of the sacred feminine that were honored in recent times prior to that, this 5,000 years of patriarchy. Remember those energies and those ways of being. Bring them back into balance with the energies of the sacred masculine. It isn't about one dominating the other, but integrating the two and remembering that we really come into wisdom when we integrate polarities instead of holding things in conflict and in opposition. This age of Aquarius that we're moving into is about that synthesis and integration of dualities. It is about moving into a higher consciousness that allows us to reweave the energies of the sacred feminine with the energies of the sacred masculine, and to move beyond and out of what we have experienced in the patriarchal period to come more back into balance and harmony with each other and with all that is. You know, it's remarkable that as we move through this transit of Saturn with Pluto and the South Node, a few months after Saturn and Pluto go exactly into their conjunction in January of 2020, Saturn moves into Aquarius in March of 2020. If we do our work well, if we really hear the guidance of this transit, it's saying, let go of your current systems and structures that are outmoded, that are destructive, that are out of balance, that are unjust. And then as Saturn moves into Aquarius, it will help us bring more of the paradigms and forms of the Aquarian Age into our world and into our lives. And again, the energies of the Aquarian Age are about living in community in more egalitarian ways, so that we're not living in that paradigm of power over and dominance, but we're living in a paradigm of power with and for each other. We then form communities that are collaborative, that hold the awareness that we're interdependent and interconnected. And it allows us to relate to each other in more just and fair ways, where there's a true respect for the other instead of a fear of the other. This is a powerful time that we're in. And remember that this Saturn-Pluto conjunction is coming off the years of the Uranus-Pluto square that we've been in, that has been calling us into awareness of these structures in our lives and in our collective world that are out of balance and that need to shatter and be reshaped and restructured and reformed. This is another level of that saying, the time is now. Let's break down these old structures and build something new. So as you work with the energies of this transit, take time to meditate and reflect. Start with your own life, looking at what structures in your life need to be reformed or transformed. And remember, it's important with Pluto to honor that the beginning phase of a major Pluto transit, like this Pluto transit with Saturn, is about what needs to die, what needs to break down, what do we need to allow ourselves to let go of. And then the middle phase with the Pluto transit is being in the liminal period, the not knowing what new form may emerge next, much like the caterpillar going into the chrysalis. And then the final phase with a Pluto transit is the caterpillar that's dissolved in the chrysalis, emerging as the butterfly. So if we work with this transit consciously, we have the capacity to emerge in radically new ways. There is a concept in the understanding of evolution that there are times when we're in chaos and things are complex and difficult, that they can't be resolved in an analytical or linear way. We can't resolve them with the tools of the paradigms of the past. It's a time for an evolutionary leap into a whole new way of seeing and being, out of which then we can move into new forms. We're at that point now. It is a cataclysmic time of death, rebirth, that need not play out in a way that's ultimately about our own destruction or the destruction of the world. If we really work with these energies of Saturn and Pluto, they're guiding us to consciously co-create a new reality by collaborating with these energies to let go of the old and take that evolutionary leap into a higher consciousness that we can't even fully comprehend right now, that can allow us to co-create new forms with each other and with these energies of the cosmos. So the key as we move through this process is really trust in these energies and in these larger currents that are carrying us through this time of transformation. Don't get caught in fear. Reflect on your own life and the changes that you need to make. If each of us are stepping into that transformational process, we will then help support that shift in the collective. If we allow ourselves to heal and transform and change, we energize that change in the collective consciousness. And then we support that emergence into a new paradigm, into new ways of seeing and thinking and being, into a higher consciousness. And it is a profound time that we're in as we are moving into this age of Aquarius, which is calling us into a cosmic consciousness, to move beyond the ego, beyond nationalism, even beyond our sense that the Earth is the only planet with life in the universe, into becoming citizens of the cosmos and realizing we are a part of that larger web of life and that oneness that is all that is. So open to these energies. Allow them into your life. Honor the ways that they're working in the collective. And together, let's co-create a radically new world. Blessed be.